Hello and welcome to PRSay. This is the Houston PRSA chapter's official podcast. And here on PRSay, we make an effort to get to know each other and make sure that our members are always connected, whether they are able to attend in-person events or they're participating virtually. So I'm really excited about today's guest. We're going to talk about how to start in PR no matter your age or where you are in your career. So that's always a fun conversation. I will remind you before we get there to our guest that you can always listen to our podcast by hitting subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and catch all of our episodes. Or you can always catch us on Facebook or YouTube and drop us some comments so that my guests and I can be sure to circle back with you. So we'll go ahead and get this episode kicked off. I have Tiffany Marascio joining us. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So excited about today's conversation and to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so as you can tell by the title of the show, I started a little bit later in PR, and that is okay.
That's all right. That's
So
okay.
it takes a while sometimes to figure out what you truly enjoy and what you're good at. So in college, I was on the 9-year plan, and that's because I paid for it myself and worked as I went. And that's part of the story was that my first job was in the legal profession. And so I really pigeonholed myself. I thought I had to always work there and no one else would hire me because they saw that that's the first thing and only thing I had done. And so I did that for several years after I graduated. And then we moved. And I took a little bit of a break having kids, and that can also kind of derail your career if you're not keeping up with things.
Mm-hmm.
So I did move back in slowly, trying to get a job again. And one of the things I did was really just get out there,
Mm-hmm.
meet people, just go to events with the type of people that I wanted to be around. And I did start running into the same people, and they were very motivated and driven. And I noticed that they were doing PR things. And to back up a little bit, I've always been pretty shy, and I had to make a conscious decision to move away from that. That's not going to work in PR.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you
Yeah.
made that decision. Good for
So
you.
you can change yourself. I firmly believe in that. It just
Yeah.
takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
So from there, I found who is now my current boss. And I just made sure that she was going to hire me. I just
love
really
it.
wanted that job and went after it. And so I didn't start really in the PR part of it. I was really as behind the scenes as possible, just helping in any way I could. And then I kind of created my role as I went along and realized that everywhere I went, and I love talking about where I currently work at Hello Woodlands, I was representing them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and in a smaller part, also the Woodlands. So I have to keep that in mind everywhere I go. And that's how I've just kind of made it, a part of myself is getting out there and talking to people. And now I love it. Everyone has these amazing stories. And I did just write a story on someone, and it's so inspiring. And I hope I can do that for someone else. I hope that they can see I was in my 40s by the time I realized that this is what I need to do, and that this is my calling. So it can happen.
That's right. It can. I love it. And so you really nurtured that natural storytelling skill that you had. Tell me about how you really stepped into that. How did you um, decide, okay, now I'm with a great organization and I'm going to start creating my job? You talked about creating your job. What did
Yes.
that look like for you? I'm really interested because I think some folks maybe only think they can apply for jobs that already exist and that the job description's already laid out, but it sounds like you kind of created it on your own.
I did, and that was part of this newfound drive that I discovered again later in my 40s. I felt like my boss, I could tell, just had a lot on her plate, and I really just wanted to. I just love to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and so every time I took on something new, I found out just more, and it related to something else. And so basically, I would just say, "Why don't I try that?" And the risks in the beginning were pretty low. I wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
take on more than I felt like I could figure out.
Sure.
Google was a great friend of mine, and so was YouTube. And there's a lot of people in this area that I admire and actually are also members of PRSA, and
Mhm.
they do a great job. And every time that we get a press release from them, I can tell because what they do is amazing. They are great representatives. Um, so I just follow what they do and admire them. But bringing it back to how I created the job is I just kept taking on more and
Mhm.
saying, how do I do this? And if you don't know, I'm going to go figure it out so that my boss could focus on what she needed
Mhm.
to grow the business.
Mhm.
And I just found it fascinating and fun, and just this whole learning process along the way keeps me motivated and driven.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And so what are some of the tasks that that you're responsible for now? You talked about writing a story. What are some of the other things? It sounds like you're doing some development and networking, and how does all that fit into your day-to-day?
So absolutely. So here where I live in the Woodlands, there's a lot of different neighborhoods and villages. And so I go out to them, I go to their events and let them know Hello Woodlands exists. How can we help you? How can we help the community? So that I'm a representative of Hello Woodlands to the community. Lots of networking to get the word out
Mhm.
um, about us and that how we are a resource for the community. Um, like I said, I write, I interview, I take in press releases from, as I said, members of PRSA who do a great job. So a lot of editing
Mhm.
of the press releases I get, a lot of fact checking, um, and then a lot of behind the scenes analytics, looking at SEO and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I love hearing people's stories and just listening
Mhm.
going to these events, letting them know who I am and that we actually care, and then listening to what their stories are. And
Mhm.
I think that's how I also found a way to develop my job too, was saying, "Oh, that's actually a good idea. Why don't we integrate that into what we do?"
Mhm. Yeah, and what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about, sometimes we go to school and we go right into the profession we studied, and then quickly we realize this isn't a good fit. And you mentioned
Yes.
finding your calling, which sometimes takes a while, right? Because it's part of
Yes.
your own discovery. What's some advice that you would give to someone who finds themselves in that situation? How do you even separate so that you can start new?
So that is difficult, and there are things that you're going to hear a lot, which is, and I will echo them. Try new things
Mhm.
as you can. Do your best to overcome fears, and the way I did that was with baby steps.
Mhm.
You start small because I did not like public speaking, as many people don't. And I didn't like getting out there in the beginning. So I would start. One of the things I learned along the way was if you see someone else enter a room that you can tell is also having trouble, um, just bring them into your sphere.
Mhm.
And then you instantly have a connection right there.
Mhm.
Or if you see people who are just coming in, point them in the way of the food, and then you can talk about that.
That's
But
right.
getting out there is really important. And there's always a connection to be made. So if you're at an
Yeah.
event,
Yeah.
um, you can pretty much talk about anything, and then you find out, oh, here's our connection. I know that person too, or I've been to this event, or especially here, it's such
Mhm.
a small community. Getting out there is a big one. Trying new things and not being afraid to fail. You know, uh, Calculated risks. You
Right. Right. Yeah, I tell people all the time, yes, think big, but don't be stupid.
Yeah,
Don't just walk off the job
right.
without a plan.
So you
So,
can listen to your friends and see what they're doing,
yeah.
and I also did that.
Mhm. Yeah. And tell me a little bit about your involvement in PRSA. I know that as a professional coming in, the ability to network and maybe just have resources has been really great. But you mentioned being up
Yes.
in the woodlands, and we do have a lot of members up in that area.
Yes, you
And
do.
so, how do you stay connected to them?
Well, I see them at a lot of events also, and so we're able to connect. We have a very strong advocate here, and she's absolutely great. And I'm actually, at the moment, studying for the APR, and I'm really excited about that. I
Oh,
would love to,
excellent.
and I have friends that already have done it. So putting all that together, yeah, amazing resources, and the people are amazing. And that says a lot about the organization itself.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. So next time you're on the show, we'll have to have comma APR after your name.
I would love that.
That
It's
will
going to
be
happen.
great. Yeah. So how has the APR experience been for you so far? Are you practicing in a study group? Are you doing some of the online tools? What are you doing to really maximize your study time?
Okay, so I started first with the materials. I'm putting everything together for the panel.
Hmm.
That's been the part that I've been the most worried about because I love school and studying and tests and all that. So, not that I'm not taking that seriously, but my main concern has been putting everything together. I've
Sure.
got all the notebooks ready and I've written out what I'm going to say. So I haven't had a chance, but I'm absolutely going to do a boot camp or a study group or anything I can get my hands on, because not just for the studying, but these people have the same goals I do. These are
Right.
like-minded people, and they're people that I'm going to want to know, for the rest of my life, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what I love about PRSA, especially the Houston chapter. The network is just so great that you can always find somebody that can help you. And Tiffany, I'm just so proud of you for doing that. Good job.
Thank
I
you.
I I think your story is very inspiring. And I think when you find your calling, you live a healthier, more fulfilled life. So
Absolutely.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, Tiffany, how can people can connect with you? How do you prefer people reach out? Because I definitely know that there are going to be people who want to give you some APR advice or people who might want to
That would
ask
be
you.
great, and I'm always happy to talk about pretty much anything. I love that. Listen and help anyone who wants to, maybe change their career. I love talking about that. I'm on LinkedIn at Tiffany Marascio, and I know that's kind of a interesting spelling, so hopefully,
That's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll
And
put
it's
the link in the show notes so people
okay.
can
That
just
sounds
click on
great.
it. Yeah.
Yes, but LinkedIn is great for that.
Awesome. All right, Tiffany, it was so great chatting, and I hope we can meet in person soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, make sure you connect with Tiffany. If you've got any APR advice as she starts that journey, make sure you reach out and connect because here at PRSA in the Houston chapter, we are all about supporting each other. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of PRSA. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments and we will catch you next time.